Mark Rogers TV, just a few minutes after Miami disposed of Georgia Tech in the ACC opener in Atlanta. We bring in Cam Underwood from State of the U to help us break it down. Cam, we appreciate you jumping on right after the game. This is good stuff.
Yeah, got just a couple of minutes here or whatever. So, yeah, got the game story all posted. And, yeah, so we can do some instant analysis. So let's get to it.
So based on what I saw and in trying to compare it, as we talked the other day, with what Georgia Tech's done on defense to date, which they've looked pretty impressive. They held Deshaun Watson and company in check. You guys pretty much had your way on offense, running and throwing.
We had some positive plays. Their Georgia Tech's run defense is pretty stout. They gave up a couple of big runs. We had a 27-yard touchdown by Joe Yearby to open the scoring. And then after Georgia Tech scored to tie the game at 7, the next touchdown was a 14-yard run by Mark Walton. And both of those plays were very similar, kind of guard lead. So not pulling inside the line, but having the tight end block down and the guard pulling outside like a little lead play. So those are both similar plays like that. So we had some of that, but, a lot of the inside runs were a little tough for us for most of the game. Maybe got a couple 4 or 5 yarders, but, a lot of zeros, a couple negative plays in there as well. So there was that. Brad Kaaya, the quarterback, he had a kind of pedestrian day, 13 for 19 for 241 in the score. 355 yards total offense for Miami, but we ran so many fewer plays than did Georgia Tech. So we made the most of the plays that we had, but, it wasn't super explosive per se. But, sometimes good enough is good enough, and that's what it was today.
Heard the appearance by Jonathan Vilma and Butch Davis on the broadcast talking about the defense in particular. They talked about a number of things, but what really hit me was the defense, because it really played into the discussions we've had in the offseason and how you were excited to see this defense not read and react, but really get after plays. And we saw it time and time again produce points instantly because the defense was allowed to be aggressive, get into the backfield, shoot gaps, and get after it.
Yeah, getting up the field and creating havoc is the standard for the Miami defense under Manny Diaz, and who was a defensive coordinator and linebackers coach, and then Craig Kuligowski, who for my money is the best defensive line coach in America. They want to create havoc. They want to get up the field. Now, there were some times when the assignments weren't correct. So we got up the field, but if you're up the field in the wrong place, then Georgia Tech can, get some yardage. And they were able to do that on the flanks, on the edges of the defense. So, if you've watched Georgia Tech ever, usually they call their fullback position, the guy right behind the quarterback in their flex bone, they call him the B-back. So they have A-backs on the wings and B-backs behind. So what they usually do, or what they did the last time when we played there, is they gave their B-back the ball all day long and ran it down the middle of our throats, and we couldn't stop it. But we were very stout on the interior of the defense today. And so they said, fine, we're going to do these toss plays and kind of speed options to the outside to get on the edges of the defense. And where that, again, became a problem is when you have guys who miss their assignments. So there was a specific play. Justin Thomas, the Georgia Tech quarterback, is running this way, and Joe Jackson, the defensive end, freshman defensive end, has the quarterback. He's right there chopping it up in the hole. Then you have a linebacker come right behind him, try to say, no, I got the quarterback. So if you have two guys on one guy, it's just like basketball. You got somebody open. Boom, pitch to the outside, running back goes up the side. So there was, more aggression. We had 8 tackles for loss. 8 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, both of them returned for touchdowns. Both of those by true freshmen, starting middle linebacker Shaq Quarterman, and then Joseph Jackson, the defensive end, who, if you've been watching these videos, that's that cyborg guy I was trying to tell you about since he was recruited. Said he should have been a 5-star, but he committed early and didn't play the recruiting game. I told you guys he was going to be good, and boom, he goes, and within 3 plays, those 2 gentlemen returned fumbles for touchdowns. We had, 5 pass breakups. We had an interception by Michael Pinckney, who was another freshman who had a big sack in the game, and then the interception at the end of the game to close it out. So there's a lot of aggression, a lot of getting up the field, a lot of fast plays, but specifically against Georgia Tech, some of that aggression was used against us because with the changing offense that they run, with the everybody can move in a different way in their flex bone, the assignments change. So sometimes that aggression can be used against you, and that happened a couple of times today.
Yeah, it's easy to find imperfections, but as the saying goes, they give scholarships on the other side too. So you beat an ACC opponent, one that we've talked about, should win 6 or 7 games, get to bowl play, a decent team, a good top 45 to 50 team in America. Before I let you go here, Cam, your one takeaway maybe from this game or from the first 4 that needs to get cleaned up for Florida State.
I mean, Florida State is the next opponent, so obviously that's the immediate reaction of what needs to improve. But I think just in a general sense, we can't have the breakdowns on the offensive. Well, there's a couple of things. So I know you said one thing, but there's always more than one. So I'm going to give you like 3 or 4. The first thing for me is the offensive line. You cannot have the breakdowns that we had. There was a couple 3-man rushes that the defensive end split a double team and got very close pressure on Brad Kaaya. Those things can happen. We had a 3rd down in about 8, and Sonny Adogwu, the right tackle, I don't know what he was doing, and he basically was just a matador kind of Ole, or the maitre d', hey, let me show you to the quarterback kind of a thing, and then he got blasted on the throw, and obviously it's going to be incomplete. So those things really got to be shorn up. Obviously, Florida State has very good talent on their defensive front, so we want to combat that. And again, I mentioned Florida State because they're their next opponent, but that same goes for North Carolina, same goes for, all the other teams that we play, Pittsburgh, all the guys or teams that we will play in the future. So that's number 1. Number 2, being consistent in the running game, I think, needs to be better. We had some plays there, but it wasn't as good as it had previously been. I know that in the preview video, I said I thought Mark Walton was going to go over 100 for the 4th straight game. That did not happen. He only had 44 yards and a touchdown. Joseph Yearby was our leading running back today with 65 and a touchdown on 9 carries. But again, so few in that Georgia Tech had the ball for 40 minutes. So the running game being consistent, the offensive line being more consistent. And then the thing that I really realized is I know a lot of people were talking about Brad Kaaya being kind of pedestrian this year, but I'm going to put that a lot on Mark Richt's play calling. That's the thing that I really need to see improvement on, because he wants to stick with one thing maybe a bit too long. And, we've seen Brad Kaaya throw for, thousands of yards, and, he had 50th touchdown pass today in this game. So he obviously can play very, very well, but Mark Richt is not necessarily giving him the kinds of things that he really excels at. His accuracy is a thing. So, the quick game, the slants, or the stop routes, you want to see those. Brad Kaaya is really good at his play faking, his ball handling. So we hit a play to Chris Herndon on a tight end, play action thing that he went a cross route, shrugged off a tackle, went up the sideline for 48 yards. Those are things that I see going well. On our last touchdown drive after Georgia Tech closed to within a touchdown, we had a 1 running play, and it went for 1 yard. And then we said, you know what, we're going to throw it. Ahmmon Richards for 12, Ahmmon Richards for 31, Stacey Coley for 31, boom, and there's your 2-touchdown score. So it's sometimes when Mark Richt is really dialed in, and the synergy between he and Brad Kaaya is perfect. And you, again, like you saw in that 3rd and 4th quarter against Appalachian State, started off kind of funky, with it, got in the groove, calling plays, boom, we take off. I need to see more of that. And I mean, yeah, Brad missed some throws. Some of the, maybe audibles at the line could be better. So I'm not absolving him of his, errors or things. But that's really what I want to see. On the defensive side, the secondary was really bad today until the end. Justin Thomas hit his first 8 passes, I want to say. Justin Thomas for Georgia Tech, who has a 43% completion rate over his career. That's troubling to me. And I know that, okay, maybe the defense was looking a little bit to take away some of the option things that Georgia Tech runs, and they weren't as dialed in on pass defense as they needed to be. But I need to see that come better. So offensive line, running game, play calling, and secondary, those are my 4 things that I really want to see improve. And obviously, again, we're going to have that immediate improvement because Florida State is the team that we play next, but then obviously keep that improvement and standard of play going throughout the rest of the season, not just for one game, even though this is the biggest game of the year. I mean, every game is the biggest game that you're playing, but, let's be real. We recruit the same guys. We have guys from South Florida, top recruits around the country. There's guys on these teams who played in high school together, Joe Yearby and Dalvin Cook, for example, and there's plenty more. This is the biggest game of the season. This is our rivalry game. This is the one that matters, and it matters going into the future, i.e., recruiting and program history and these kind of things, and breaking this. Yeah, this is the game where we really want to see that and then spin that forward.
Yeah, you mentioned the drive at 2021, and those three passes that Kaaya threw, 2 to Richards and 1 to Coley. Coley was on the slant, the play that you like, the pass pattern that you like. You just split the defense. The zone was wide open, found the gap there, and all 3 balls were right on the guy. They were quick release, get the ball out of his hand, and they were right on the receiver. And Ahmmon Richards is obviously a specimen, and he's going to be fun to watch for the next few years. All right, man. Miami wins. They're 4-0. They're going to Florida State, or actually hosting Florida State next week in a huge ACC showdown. All right, Cam, we appreciate you coming on today, man.
No problem. It's always a great day when the Canes win, and I'm sure we'll be back to talk about Florida State. So you guys take it easy.